I just want to say a quick prayer. Lord God, put your thoughts in my mind. Put your feelings in my heart. And put your words in my mouth. In Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Really, what I want to talk about is I want to share my life, my story, in hopes that it will resonate with someone here and can help them or a loved one. I want to start this with this little bit of music. I just got back from Colorado. My daughter lives in Carbondale, Colorado, and so I went to help her with her 2 children. And I have a grandson that is 6 years old, and he just started a Catholic kindergarten. And so I was waiting for him to get home from school, and he burst through the door singing, Jesus, he said, Jesus, I adore you, lay my life before you. And he was just dancing in like this, and I thought, how awesome is this? I know that sounds very simple and childlike, but that's what I just loved about this. It was given to me as a gift just last week. And I thought, that really says it all. His little spirit coming in simple and full of life and full of the spirit that created all of us, this creation and the cosmos, all of us. I'm so grateful to be here that Jim asked me to do this because I do want to share my story, and I hope I don't get off on tangents. I tend to do that. So if I do yawn or something, and I'll try and redirect. But my story is one of spirit and spirits, and of freedom and enslavement. I grew up in Austin, Texas, and I had great parents. I have wonderful memories there. The first 12 years of my life were just like anybody would want to have as a child. I grew up going water skiing and hunting with my parents and lots of good family friends. I had a little sister, and we just had a great life. My dad was an attorney. My mother was a volunteer, and it was an ideal life. When I was 12 years old, it was September 12th, 1963, my mother was taking my little sister to choir practice, and they crossed the railroad tracks on Windsor Road, which are now, it goes under the railroad tracks, but at that time it went across. And she was the first in line at the light, and she was running late. And so as soon as it turned green, she went, and they were hit by a train. I was in 7th grade. I had just started O. Henry Junior High School. My sister died in that accident. My mother lived. She was in the hospital for a while, but she lived, and my mother was a really strong personality. She was kind of flamboyant, and she just believed when things happened, you just gritted your teeth and went on because you couldn't go back. There wasn't anything you could do. And so that's how she handled it. And my dad, he handled it by going to work and really pouring himself into work. That was a turning point in my life. I think that day, that experience and the aftermath of that has informed my life. And I don't say that from a place of victimhood at all. I say it in a way of the way I look at life, how I perceive life, and choices I make and continue to make in my life. I was 12 years old and started thinking about life and death and the truth that the people you love can be snatched from you in a moment. And for me, too, that day, my sister and I had been in a fight. And she left, and the last words I said to her were, "I hate you." This is heavy stuff for a 12-year-old. That day, before I knew about the car accident, I was in Spanish class, and we got a big textbook, and it looked so big, like a high school person. And I couldn't wait to get home to show my sister Jane, to tell her I was sorry and to show her how grown up I was, because I got this Spanish textbook that looked so high schoolish. Anyway, I never got to do that. But I'm telling this not to dwell on the past, but to just say this tragedy struck my family, and we all dealt with it the best we could. We didn't mention my sister. She was there one day and she was gone the next. I never went to the cemetery ever with my mother, ever. And so I carried a lot for a young child. Norman Vitt's appeal became major in my life. My mother had that book, Power of Positive Thinking, and I took it and I poured over it because he became my lifesaver. And, you know, some people look at him and think, oh, it's just positive thinking. No, if you really go into what Norman Vitt's appeal is saying, it is surrender. It is learning to totally surrender to power bigger than yourself, whatever it is that is the creator of all that's here. And that's what I learned through that. When I got to high school, like, I don't know, maybe 16 or 17, after a football game, I started drinking. And so alcohol, it was like, I didn't even want to drink. I had a beer, and because everybody was doing it. And, you know, it helped me not be quite so serious, and it helped me act like I was a fun teenager instead of kind of on the inside preoccupied with life, death, the meaning of life, and things like that. It became, for me, alcohol through college was just kind of the way to fit in. Both my parents were social drinkers, so I grew up, you know, around when they went out, they had drinks, and when people came over for cocktail parties, they had drinks and that kind of thing. It wasn't an alcoholic problem, but it was a part of their lives. And so that to me was, you know, alcohol is a part of having fun and social interaction. And there was nothing wrong with it. And that's how I believe. So through college, you know, I drank. Like, I loved to go to parties and kind of worked in school. Luckily, I was able to make B's, even though I would find out, you know, right after usually after our exams at the end of the term, I'd think, God, that was a good class, you know. Like, too bad I didn't really study it before because I was having too much fun going out to parties. But I think there's some benefit in that too. And so that was college. And then I met my husband at the end of college. And I moved to Houston and ended up marrying Walt, and he's from Houston. We were married 8 years, and we had children. My 30th birthday, I remember we played tennis at our club, and then we went and had margaritas. And I remember thinking all through those tennis tournaments that we were having, I couldn't wait to get to the Mexican food restaurant and have a margarita. That was really what was on my mind, was getting to the Mexican restaurant and having a margarita. And 30 was kind of my, it was the hardest birthday I had, because when I turned 30, I thought, Leela, there's no more room for total irresponsibility. You kind of got to clean up your act because you're growing up, you're an adult. And so I started being very conscious about not having too much to drink. But it was a power. There was a struggle there, I have to say. But I controlled it and I stayed on top of it. When we had children, I had my first one. I had a son at 32, and I had a daughter at 35 and at 36. It was 8 years. I think, we had trouble getting pregnant. And I really think part of it was that I had a lot of fear around having children. I felt the responsibility of someone else's life, and it scared me. It really, really scared me. But when we had our son Max, I was 32, it was 1982, and I have to say, of any experience in my whole life, that was a unitive experience. That I felt joy, ecstatic, incredible joy that I never knew was possible. I told him, I would tell him every birthday, Max, when I had you, that was the closest to heaven I will ever be until I get there. And that's how I felt. So I took parenting very, very seriously. Occasionally we'd go out and I'd have a little bit too much to drink, but it was always in my head, you can't have too much to drink, you have to be responsible. And I got tired of that incessant kind of back and forth. No, let's don't go out with those people, they drink too much, because I don't want to get tempted to drink too much. And that kind of fight. I really became a very seeker. I mean, I went to church, but I mean, really seeking, like, God, what do you want from me? And I decided to go to the Spiritual Direction Institute at the Cenacle, which was a Catholic place. And I was in my early 40s. It was a 3-year program, and I did that. And I loved it. I mean, it was awesome. There were Mennonite, there were people from all different, ways of Christianity. And it was incredibly stimulating, broadening, authentic time in my life. And I absolutely felt full of life, full of spirit, the real spirit. I, at that time, decided I'm going to quit drinking, because there is the big S spirit and there is the little s spirit. And I'm depending on that little s spirit to have a good time. It gets in the way. Why am I doing this? And it was just like this, I don't know if you would say it was a revelation, but I would say it was a deep epiphany. So I decided I'd quit drinking. Well, it wasn't very easy, because all my friends drank. Everybody I knew drank, but one person. Maybe 2 people. And so I decided I'm going to go to AA. And that was really a scary thing to me, because for one thing, I didn't know who I would see. Another thing was I did not identify as an alcoholic, as what I thought an alcoholic was. But I was totally open and present to where I was in my life, and to what I feel is the spirit. And so I went. The first time I went to an this guy, it was a long time ago, and back then a lot of the people there were like what you really think of as alcoholics a long time ago, drinking out of brown bag and real crusty. This big old crusty guy came up to me, and I know, I went and I took a chip. And there were hardly any women in this group. And it took so much courage. And this big old crusty guy came up to me afterwards. He said, "What are you doing here?" Real mean, like. And I just thought, oh my gosh. So I never went back to that. I mean, it scared me to death. But anyway, I just knew this is what God wanted for me. So I went and I kept going to meetings, and I did not feel that comfortable in a lot of them because I really didn't think I was an alcoholic. And I still don't think I'm an alcoholic. But I kept continuing to go because I knew that I would not be able to quit drinking if I didn't have some people that didn't drink to be my friends, even if it was just 2 or 3 times a week, you know? And it was awesome. I mean, I found one group that was just like one of the best times in my whole life, this group. It was men and women. And of course, like AA, just so everybody from so many different places. There were people that collected wine. There were people that were just had really been on the streets, and the wisdom and the authenticity and the connection in that group was one of the most life-giving things in my whole entire life. And like everything, it changed because people die, get cancer. One person died in a motorcycle accident. People move away to different places. And so it kind of dissipated. But I did that for 12 years while we raised our children. But during that time, very few people knew that I was going to AA. I mean, my best friend knew, and, you know, but I didn't advertise it because I didn't think I was an alcoholic. Even if I thought I was an alcoholic, I probably wouldn't have advertised it. But at the time, we were going to St. John's Church, and I talked to my friend Meg Rice, and I was telling her, you know, I'm doing this. And she said, "Leila, you ought to speak at church. I mean, you ought to get up and speak at church and tell everybody what you're doing." And I thought, okay, maybe I'll do that. I really thought about it. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do it after a while. And the reason I said I'm not going to do it is because I'm not an alcoholic. And I thought, that's a label people put on. And it brings up pictures, not that alcoholic's bad, because some people go to that place because genetics or whatever. But I didn't need to say something that I wasn't. And I didn't need to have people make assumptions about me that were incorrect. And I didn't need my children that I had worked so hard to see me as being free of alcohol to have any feelings that they might have inherited something from me. That's how I felt. And I chose not to do it. I struggled with that decision. Okay, so anyway, so I did that. Our kids grew up. Our son, he got it into alcohol. He loved people. He loved life. His name was Max, and he was in my stomach like this as a little baby. And he came out like this. In the hospital, they called me and said, "Ms. Mischer, can I bring Max in?" I mean, his knees were raw from being like this, and, you know, so tightly bound to that little thing. He was a go for it kind of person. And he did go for it. He loved people. He loved life. And he got into alcohol. And it took him. We lost Max. We lost Max when he was 33 years old. So I saw his spirit, his beautiful, life-giving light, his go for it. I have a little necklace that I have here that says go for it, because that was him. go for it, full throttle. I saw that spirit be diminished because of the little s spirit. And it eventually took him. So, all my life, I looked for people that I could identify with, that would say, yeah, I had that struggle too. I had that struggle, but I'm not an alcoholic, I don't think, but I do have that struggle. But I didn't find any. I either found people that said, I'm an alcoholic, or I don't drink. Of course, I wanted to die too. And I started seeking again, really seeking. I've always been a seeker, but I mean in a totally new way, because I mean, the worst thing you can ever imagine had happened to me. There was nothing to lose. And so I was just open to, what do you want, God? What do you want? And I was led to, at another time I'll go into detail, but it was totally divine promptings, I know. I was led from one person to another person, to another person, to another person. I just now got a text from Max's first love. Is that amazing? Kathleen Hinton. I don't know if any of you all know Kathleen. She just texted me. So let's see, which led me last December to a book written by a woman named Annie Grace. And it is called This Naked Mind. I read the book and I recognized my people for the first time in my life. Annie's book is about the middle group of people where alcohol might not be, they're not going to die from it. They're not going to kill somebody or kill themselves, but it gets in the way. It causes cognitive dissonance. It gets in their heads and it says, oh, have a drink. Everybody's having it. It's fun. You won't belong. Everybody does it. The cool people do. If you don't, you're a teetotaler. Teetotalers are boring. You're just not going to be part of the group. That battle that goes on, and I know I'm not the only one who has that battle. And so she spelled it out, and I was like, golly, this is my person. This is my person. And funny, I think this is interesting because Jim was talking about Adam and Eve. And, when Adam and Eve left the garden, and all of a sudden they were ashamed and they had all these blocks to hide who they really were. And it was interesting because when I read This Naked Mind, and I was talking to my friend that had recommended that book to me, who she was involved with Annie. I said, do you think it was the Garden of Eden that she named this book after? Because of all the blocks that we have, that we as human beings, all of us do, all of us, it's part of being human. We have all these barriers that we put up to say, I'm okay, and this is who I am, and I've got everything under control, and I got it figured out, and but we all struggle. We all struggle with things. That's the human condition. And so it turned out, my friend told me that Annie named it that, but for a child's kind of mind, like right when you were born, your brain, before you get all these messages and everything. But for me, I related with the Garden of Eden, so I was really interested when I heard your talk on that, because we tend to hide too much. I mean, we can't just tell everything to anybody, but sometimes we just hide so much that we lose connection with the spirit of the universe that my little grandson was so full of the other day. And so anyway, I enrolled in her class, which was 6 months, and I had to do the computer, which was like, I'm telling you, I mean, I know I'm supposed to do, God wants me to do this because he sent an angel who is a technology person who has come and helped me so much. I would never have been able to do it without this person because so much was online. Oh my gosh. But I have learned so much about the brain and how it's just so awesome how we're made. How our cosmos is made, how our planet's made, how our brains are made. And our brains, every human brain is made in a way to keep homeostasis. So when we introduce things into our brain, like alcohol, our brain releases other chemicals to keep homeostasis. And so if you have one drink, it releases a certain amount. For 30 minutes, you feel an euphoric, fuzzy feeling. For 2 to 3 hours, the more depressant chemicals are released. So the more you drink, then the more depressant chemicals. So, it's on a spectrum. There is a huge area of people that are the gray area. And I'm not saying alcohol is bad. I'm not standing up here and saying alcohol is bad. What I am saying is that through neuroscience and all the discoveries of today, there is so much information that we can learn and read about to know what happens in every brain when we introduce alcohol or drugs or whatever else to mess with the chemicals of our brain, because it messes up when you put enough stuff like that in your body, it messes up your pleasure center, because your pleasure center starts not producing the dopamine that it used to produce because it's used to this false dopamine coming in. So things like reading, just normal activities that you used to enjoy, aren't quite as much fun because you depend on this other and you're triggered at a certain time of the day to have that release. And so, this is just information, and I could go into all the details. I don't want to bore y'all with that. But the point of the matter is it's just about awareness. It's just about knowledge, self-awareness, being present to what is. And I guess I'm on this mission, and I hope what I'm saying is okay, Jim. I have all these notes, and I hadn't even looked at them. But I guess what I'm saying is that we live in a culture that is so saturated with alcohol, drugs. And why is that? Well, one reason it is because we have communication that's easy, that we all over the world. And alcohol marketing spends more money than any other industry in the entire world on advertising, except for the car industry a couple of times a year. We have subliminal messages, deep subliminal messages in us that say, just notice. I invite you all just to start noticing the TV advertisements, the magazines, everything else. What does it say? It says, this is what the beautiful people do. This is what's sexy. This is fun. This is carefree. This is your little way to be a part of the group and be successful. We have these messages so deep within us. And the reason I'm on, I feel like I'm getting some frowns and everything, but on this is that I just feel that our children and our grandchildren are going to be victims of this industry that is trying to make a ton of money. And we have all been infected by it. In the early 1800s, people weren't like this. Alcohol was mainly used as a pain reliever of pain. So there are these messages and they're false beliefs. And we have an opportunity at this time in our history to look within us and say, what is the true spirit? What influence do I want to live under? Do I want to live under this illusion? Or do I want to stand and I want to feel who I am? And I want to be present to the people that are in front of me. And I'm not saying I'm never going to have another glass of wine. I might, I can if I want to. It's not going to kill me. But I am saying I want my life to be full of the Spirit that made me, that made you, that made my grandchildren, that made this incredible universe, that made our incredible bodies. And our bodies are trying to teach us what's good, what's not good, what's healthy, what's not healthy. Why do you have a hangover if you drink too much? Obviously, say, this is poison. So anyway, I want you to know my son is real with me in this journey. He sends me signs a lot. He sends me cardinals, a ton. One day I was putting my makeup on by the window in our bedroom. I sit on the floor, put my makeup on by the window. And I was having a kind of a hard day. It was during this time when I was doing this Naked Mind Institute, and I was feeling very discouraged because it was hard, and so much of the stuff was online and having to do Zoom calls and host a Zoom call and all this, and I was discouraged. And this bird just flew into the pane next to me, and I looked over, and it was a cardinal. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because I was down and I had been working so hard. And this little cardinal just went smashing into that window. And I thought, Max, okay, take a breath. I'm going for this. So anyway, let me see if I can find my end. What I want to say, one thing Jim said in one of his classes was, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And I think that it is so true. And so much of if we could just realize what a nanosecond we're here in this world, it's a nanosecond. And it's such a gift. Such a gift. And all this little human drama is this human stuff. But within us, we have deep spirit. And that deep spirit is the big picture. The big picture. And that's just what I want to offer today, is that I feel very grateful for my life. I always wanted 3 children. I was given 3 children. And then I was scared to have a boy, and he was my first, and so special. I gave Max this little symbol that my friend Jeannie Miley gave me. I had one, I gave one to Max. It's a Hebrew symbol for life. It's choose life. And I think that's what this is all about, is what is life? What is spirit? And last things I'm going to say are the definition of spirit. The principle of a conscious life, the vital principle in humans, animating the body or mediating between body and soul. The verb is to animate with courage and ardor, to encourage or stir up as to action, to in spirit. And then, God is pretty darn amazing, because on my way back from Colorado, I was thinking, are you sure, God? Are you sure? I said yes because I just thought yes was the answer, but are you sure? And so I was looking through, my little daily meditations, and the ones leading up to today were all directly relevant to me being here. The one on Thursday, November 18th, even had, it was talking about getting out of your comfort zone, which this is definitely out of my comfort zone. And then it referred to Ephesians and Ephesians 5. And it was about alcohol. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh Lord, really? You couldn't have been more direct, So, but then this is what I looked up, because I love that. Choose life. And this is from Deuteronomy. And it says, it's Deuteronomy 30, verse 7. It says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today. I have set before you life and death, a blessing and a curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him. For he is your life and length of days, that you may dwell in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So my message is choose life with a big L. Thank you all.